Man, get in here, get in here, get in here. This is shocking news. And I'm not talking about ICE detaining these phony Native Americans, right? Or some Mexicans or Filipinos. I'm not talking about that, right? I'm not talking about ICE detaining them. Look what they've been doing secretly since we've been opening up our mouth. Go and take a screenshot. But in case you haven't heard, and you know Getty is on the scene, a significant numbers of Native American tribes, basically over 80% of them, have engaged in disenrollment. Why y'all doing this to yourself? I thought y'all was the real Indians. Why is y'all running? Why is y'all getting rid of these peoples? Huh? Why is y'all running? Don't run that. No, don't run that. And then they call it an enrollment error. An enrollment error. So you removing thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of peoples? No. Over 80% of the tribes. Over 80%. No, what's need to happen is all y'all need to go. Go back to where y'all came from, because tribal identity is theft to the so-called Black Americans, right? And this is what I mean. You see this person came from China, but all of a sudden he's mixed with Native American, right? And white. Or what about this? Russia? But all of a sudden he's an American Indian? He's an American Indian? Really? That's why y'all running? Well, run, nigga, run! Because we ain't gonna stop until all y'all is demolished.
Hey y'all, I got some shit would need to be said, okay? So that is Gaddy D'Angelo. You can find him on TikTok if you are interested in hearing more of what he has to say. He's very informative, and he brings the facts. I will say that he brings documentation, other videos, whatever he has to bring in order to disprove the pretendians, and he does it in a really comical way. So it never gets old, and he always opens up with, "Hey, wait a minute." It's like this little catchy phrase. It's so funny. But so that particular video, he was basically just showing the people who are claiming the Indian identity, right? So he's showing that their birthplaces are from China, right? He's showing that there was a one from Russia, right? So it's not just Asian, right? People from the Asian continent, Siberians, Mongolians. It's also Europeans that are claiming the Indian identity, right? And in doing so, they are receiving Indian identity funds, right? Which is monthly checks and all kinds of different resources, land, right? So, and I actually spoke with a couple people that are from Indian reservations, right? And I was talking to them because I was wondering why they left. I'm like, why are you here? You know what I mean? I was like, if I had a reservation, I would be on my reservation, like tending to my land and like doing my thing. You know what I mean? I would not just be out and about. And then I was told that the majority of the Native Americans, they try to get off of the reservations. And I'm like, why? Like, why would they want to leave the land if it's their land? They claim, they gave it to them to claim. If it's their land, why would they want to leave it? And she said because they don't do much. Like, basically, they were saying that Native Americans on the reservations are like, they are alcoholics, and they are addicted to substances, and they have a serious depression and stuff like that. And I guess from the depression is why they drink so much, is what was told to me. Now, these are from Native Americans from reservations. And I was like, well, why? I was like, you guys get monthly checks? And they were like, yeah, we get big checks, and they come out and they build us these big ass houses. And I'm like, what? They come out and build your houses? And they're like, yeah, they come out and build these big houses, and we get these monthly checks. But so what it seems like is maybe they don't have much desire to attain anything further, because most people in society, like, like in inner cities, they go to work like 9 to 5s, or are business owners, and people are working in order to attain money in order to live. Right? Because people are paying mortgages and rent, and they're paying to live, whereas the Native Americans, they're just getting checks cut to them every month, and they're getting houses built for them for nothing at all, is what was told to me. And they really don't have much to aspire to, I guess, because they're receiving what people go to work every day to receive. Okay. And so she said most Native Americans on the reservations, they don't go like to college or anything like that. I was told that they don't do much, but they're usually depressed and addicted to like substances and stuff. And so I thought that was interesting. I guess that's no different from somebody who grew up in a wealth bubble, and if they feel like there's not much to strive for, because maybe their parents are like, let's say, rich and famous, and they have all this money, and so they don't want for anything at all ever, and so they feel like there's not much to live up to because they already have everything, which is what people out here are working to get, right? And so I look at it as maybe it's kind of like that. But they told me that they were happy to get out because it was depressing, and they were happy to go to school and go to college and receive more education and kind of mix and mingle in the inner city and stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, well, because my thinking is, if I have a reservation, if I have land, my thinking is I'm trying to build, but that's my thinking. Like I'm mapping out a whole town in my head, and I'm gonna get a crew together and we're gonna go build some things, but that's just my thinking. But what's interesting is that I actually, one time I drove through an Indian reservation in New Mexico, and I needed to stop to get some gas, but I also was interested in looking at the little stores, because that sold like the Native American garb, like the clothes and the jewelry and things like that. It was crazy because the stores, they look like little shacks. Like, it looks like if the wind blew strong enough, like it would just blow them completely over. It was really like rickety, the stores. And then there were Native Americans that were in the gas stations, which were also convenience stores, and then there were like casinos. But in New Mexico, it was very desolate. Like, it was just a lot of rural open land, and it was just mountains and dirt, and it was just really, really desolate. And I remember thinking to myself when I was driving through, I was like, I would never live here, because what would I do? I would probably be bored. There's nothing here, I mean, and I don't know if they're not allowed to build other businesses, because it only seems like there's just casinos and those little, like, the gas stations and the little shack stores and stuff. I don't know if they're allowed to have other things going on, or if they just don't have ideas to build other things. I don't know, but it was just really, really desolate out there. But what I thought was interesting, y'all, is that when I would go into these stores, like the Native American shops, whenever I would talk to the Native Americans, they would never look me in my eye. And I always thought that was strange. I'm like, why are they not looking me in my eye? Like, I'm coming into the store to buy from you. I'm talking to you to your face, and you won't even look at me. Like, you won't even look at me. Like, they kept grown behind men, Native American men. They would just keep their heads down. And I never understood it. I just kind of chalked it up to, okay, they're racist. They gotta be racist, because I don't understand why they're not looking at me. You know what I mean? And now that I think about it, y'all, now that all this stuff is coming out with, who the real Indians are, and the pretendians and things like that, I chalk it up to, they knew that they were looking at the real Indian, y'all. They knew that they was cosplaying, being a doppelganger. And I think when they looked up and saw me, and they heard them put their head back down, I think in their mind, they was like, oh shit. Like, I'm playing you, and you're walking in the store looking at me. Like, you know what I mean? And so now that's kind of how I look at it. I don't look at it anymore like, oh, they're racist. I look at it now like, oh, you knew who you was looking at. And I thought I knew who I was looking at. But it turns out I wasn't looking at who I thought I was looking at. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Copper colored people, man. You know, it's crazy. And what's also interesting is that I grew up with like my mom wearing American Indian clothes. My dad wore moccasins, and you know, you don't hear. I was about to say black men, but Indian. I guess American Indian men wear moccasins. I grew up with my dad wearing moccasins, and people always thought that was strange because they would see him. They're like, "How come you don't wear regular shoes?" But those were shoes. Those were his shoes. They were just moccasins. So I grew up with my parents wearing American Indian garb, and I just think it's interesting now. I just think it's interesting that 80 tribes, which was what Gaddi was talking about, 80 tribes are now disassociating themselves from the benefits of the birthright benefits and stuff. Well, actually, they're not doing it on their own. Like the U.S. government, right, is forcing them to forfeit the birthright and the resources and all that because they are not the real Indians. They are not the Aboriginal American Indians indigenous to the land. They are not the original copper-colored people. And so this is going to be interesting to watch as it plays out. And it's going to be interesting to see what the ending result is going to be. But check out Gaddi if you want to learn more about him disproving. And he having a good time doing it, y'all. Comments?
They label us black, that's not what we are. We the true Americans, shining brighter than stars. We ain't Africa, nah. Don't put us in chains. We the sons of this land, running deep in our veins. Colonizers lie, try to switch up the script, call us something different just to make the truth flip. But the drums still beat and the spirits still sing. We the wild Indians, let the ancestors ring. We the wild Indians, you know what it is. Original Americans, land is still ours, still our biz. Aborigines, standing strong, never hid. Woody woo, woody woo. We the ones who really live. We the wild Indians, voices never fall. Truth in our bloodline, stories never told. Aboriginal, let the fire take hold. Woody who, woody who. Now we the ones in control. From the rivers to the plains, from the mountains to the seas, our people stood tall like the roots of the trees. Aboriginal blood, you can feel it in the ground. We ain't lost, we ain't gone, yo, we always been around. Try to box us in, call us something we not, but the truth don't fade and the flame don't rot. We the ones they erased out the pages of schools, but the spirit too strong and we breaking their rules. We ain't black, we ain't